Host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this evening? Boy, is it absolutely beautiful night out. Absolutely beautiful. Yep, I love this time of the year. Starts cooling down. That's a beautiful evening. No wind. You don't get a lot of days like that in Nebraska. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about mental illness. Charlie Kirk, another victim of mental illness. Okay. And, the FBI trying to cover stuff up, stuff like that. But yeah, this stuff needs to be treated. When people are walking around thinking they're animals and they can change their sex, okay, something needs to be done. And it's us that don't need the correction. All right. Anyway, got to talk a little bit, couple minutes for people to show up. But I tell you what, YouTube is being tough on me. And it seems like the more content I put out, the harder they are on me. I mean, it's just, I put out a lot of content. But I think I'm going to cut down to my live streams every other day now. And, come on early like this, because it's just, the more content I put out, the harder they slam on my channel. And, this growth is, they sat there and sent me a notice. Oh, you got over 3,000 viewed hours, right? On that one page, it says I got over 3,100 viewed hours, right? But on the pay page where you get monetized, that's only 2,100, okay? Quite a discrepancy there. I wish they would stop sending me notices that I'm getting subscribers and, all these hours when I don't actually have it. So it's crazy time. But this is a YouTube game they play. Okay, this is one reason we had the Charlie Kirk thing too, because you got all these people that need to hear stuff, and, they're not allowed to hear anything that offends them and that shuts them up. So they make sure they quiet us down. But anyway, Hunter Thompson, you don't act like a fool to get big money on here. No, it's not. I'm not. The thing is, I got a lot of things I like to do on YouTube. I don't always want to be complaining about the government. I like to make people laugh. I like to start up, like a red green type skit show and stuff with my buddies and stuff, and make it look professional. I really wish we could fix our problems in this country, but that's what I want to do. And of course, that takes money. To be able to sit there and see, I believe that YouTube is going to be like the new, in these social medias, is going to be like the new way to make movies, put shows on TV. Hollywood's going to go bye-bye because nobody wants to watch it. Okay, I haven't watched regular TV in I don't know how long. And I believe social media is going to be a place to start out shows like, MASH or Seinfeld. Imagine a Seinfeld that played on where a show came out every week on a social media platform, an actual show that didn't go through Hollywood. That's happening, and that's what I think YouTube or these social media platforms are going to turn into. And that's what I like to do, okay? Because this political commentary, they don't like it. They don't like it at all. They push hard. But let's get on with the subject now. Charlie Kirk, another victim of mental illness. And that's what this is. Okay, yeah, it's a bad crime. But imagine if instead of this kid getting radicalized, he would have got treatment. Okay? He's got a roommate that's changing his metamorphosing in his body, and he thinks he's a furry too. Okay, I have a hard time understanding why these people that go to college for all these years doesn't understand that is mental illness. It's unbelievable. They shake it off like it's no big deal. Like we're supposed to accept it. And then if you sit there like Charlie Kirk, when he sat there and the White House told him to calm Mega down on the hoax list, that was, I pretty much stopped watching Charlie because, I disagreed with it. And, to me, it was just a bad sign of how things can go with him. Meaning that is that he'll go, I'm sure Trump called him up and said, control mega, do your part. He did. He should have been, when he was on the phone with Trump, hey, release the damn list, and I ain't got to do that. So it bothered me, okay? Anyway, take off that hat, dude. There it is. Now I've been working all day. I like my hat. Keeps the sun out of your eyes. That's why cowboys, when I go ride my horse, I wear a cowboy hat because it keeps the sun out of my eyes, okay? Anyway, but fresh, huh? Anyway, let's get back to the subject. But people like this, they need to be treated. And the thing is, right, we have kids that are being pushed on pills because they're kids, maybe hyperactive or whatever, and then they get to take a pill the rest of their life. The rest of their life. I never went to the doctor and the doctor gave me a pill that I had to take the rest of my life to be healthy, all right? Never. When I went to the doctor who had his office in downtown, his own office, it was here, take this pill for 7 or 10 days and there's no refill. Anyway, hey, if you like the content, please hit the thumbs up, the subscribe, and the bell notification. Anything to help the channel grow. Because, like I say, YouTube wants to bury all this. I mean, the FBI here didn't want to release the information on the roommate because he was cooperating. Okay, I said from the beginning that this was a transgender job, okay? I thought it would have been somebody that Charlie Kirk embarrassed in public at the time, but, it's a bad thing. I mean, all of us that, during the No King's Day with these people, morality before reality. And all of us that have to live in reality have to deal with become victims of their reality because they live in their morality. I mean, they're giving them pills to change. Okay, it's not normal to mutate one's body. I mean, I thought it used to be against the law to mutate one's body. All right? I know being a Marine in combat, the enemy, you are not allowed after he's deceased or while he's still alive to mutilate the body. So what you can't do in combat, a service member can't do in combat, they're allowed to do in the hospitals in this country. And they promote it. They push kids to do this. Like the Minnesota shooter, he had been duped, he had been fooled. Wish he had never done it. And he hated everything so much that, hey, look at what he did. Your glasses are crooked. Well, I don't know what to tell you. I guess you'll just have to stare at them a while and deal with it. Okay, what am I missing? I don't read the chat very much, guys, because I'm here, that's for you guys. I know that's one thing being on YouTube too, trying to get the channel to grow and get the truth out there and all these people that are trying to create hate and discontent. All these people that are on their medications to make them normal. But they're the ones telling us how to be normal. I love it how people that, like I always say, when somebody who believes a man can have a baby tells me I'm crazy, I know I'm about as sane as you can get. The world first hated Jesus, so they continue to hate us. They hated him even after our sins put him to death. Yeah, and they can continue. Why? Because he stands up for what's right, what's moral. Thomas Jefferson said that the Constitution can only stand with the moral people. Do you see why the Constitution's not standing? We got mental illness running amok. And if you question it at all, and try to, well, like therapy should have been, instead of promoting their sickness, saying, hey, this, you can't, anyway, the whole transgender stuff, people, yeah, when I was growing up, yeah, I'm sure there are people transgender, but they kept it in the closet where it needs to, where stuff that society doesn't accept needs to be kept. Okay. If you got to come up to me and the first thing you got to sit there and show me that you're a guy wearing a dress and I need to accept it, well, there's no way, because I'll sit there and say, well, I believe in the Declaration of Independence. I'm a constitutional conservative. You got to agree with everything I say. Okay. No, I tell you what, I'm not saying that my word is all. I'm not saying that. But my life works for me. Okay. But, when I was growing up, what behavior that's accepted now would have been treated as mental illness. If I would have went home to my parents and would have been serious about wanting to be a girl, yeah, I would have got my ass whooped. Period. End of story. That's just the way it was. And it's amazing our culture didn't have the problems back then as it does now. No man has ever came to me, and the only thing that happened once is when I was married at the time, my wife and daughters went into the restroom. Is at a truck stop. And some guy went to go walk in there, and I stepped in front of him, and I said, I don't think so. And I wouldn't let him in there until my family got out of there. I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept it. See, that stuff is, if a normal guy does that, that's illegal. So if you have mental illness as a man, it makes it legal. Anyway, so, there's just some things that if it's put in my face, I'm not going to deal with. So anyway, I'm glad everybody's showing up. Hey, if you like the channel, please hit the like and subscribe and the bell notification so you can get all the information I put out. But I'm hoping if I cut down a little bit, don't try to do a dozen videos a day. YouTube will release the handcuffs on me, and maybe my growth will go a little bit better. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on with this Charlie Kirk, and just another thing where we're not going to know the truth. I mean, it seems like the FBI showed up right away to cover everything up, doesn't it? The federal government, we got to cover the shit up. Only let the people know what we want them to know. Anyway. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I don't read much of the chat. That's there for you guys, but I appreciate you being here. But, we need to start reining in stuff that's against our culture, okay? Stop pushing these kids to be put on medications when they're younger, when their brains are developing, so they don't even have a sense of reality. And then we want to protect them from anything that might harm them, so they're not able to handle kid situations, let alone adult situations. Okay? And frankly, some are living in fantasy world. They don't know the difference between, like I say, reality. The reality I live in and the reality that these people are living are two different planes of existence. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, obviously, they can't, whenever they got to touch the reality plane, stuff like Charlie Kirk happens. Anyway, we're never going to hear the truth on this, and then people talking about Civil War and, I don't know when it's coming. I saw in 1994 when I got out of the Marine Corps which way this country was headed, and I started to be a prepper and learning more skills and everything. It's getting to the point where I'm about ready to go out and dig my dugout next to a stream and have my horses out there living up in the mountains. I mean, I can't live. another 40. I mean, just think 5 years from now how much different it's going to be. I mean, AI is really going to take over that. It's out of control. Can I get off the system when, is it easier to sit there and get off the system now when it's still possible instead of before it's impossible? When everybody is an absolute slave to the system, and if you don't accept this stuff, I tell you what, them celebrating on the other side just shows they're sick. Beyond sick. God, right in front of his wife and 2 kids. How much therapy is that 3-year-old daughter going to need? Those kids, when they sit there getting their 20s, they're going to watch it. Anyway, like I say, some of it's by pills, mental illness caused by pills they shouldn't have got when they were younger that turned their brain to mush to sit there and make them take more pharmaceuticals. I mean, when you got people in their 20s taking 10 pills a day, antipsychotics, antidepressants, you name it, okay? That is not normal. I mean, not only are we the unhealthiest physically, but we're obviously the unhealthiest mentally. It says all our drugs come from China, right? The ingredients come from China. I can't wait till that war starts out and nobody can get their daily prescription. Anyway, then things are really going to get bad. Then you are going to see people lose their minds. I mean, you're living in the city. Like I say, in the city, you think I'd be afraid of the thug with a gun? Hell no. He's going to go rob a business or something. I walk around like I'm a poor bastard anyway. Hey, Two Feathers, good to see you. But I'm worried about that person that I walk past on the street that I know is not mentally stable, that they may try to inject me with something. Or just, they're not right. And, and all this has been pushed over all these years. I watch listen to old time radio shows, right? And sometimes they play when, like, I'm listening to Gunsmoke and it's sponsored by L&M cigarettes. Well, they have the cigarette commercials that they played during the radio show. You would not believe how they used to advertise cigarettes. Get 2 cartons in the new Christmas packaging. Yeah. Okay. They pushed them hard. And the only thing that's in comparison these days is the Pharma, big Pharma, how that's pushed. Okay. Because back then cigarettes it was a sprawling business. They wanted everybody smoking to make more money. Well, what's big Pharma want? They want everybody taking their vaccines and taking their pills and stuff. Okay? Oh, the day's coming, believe me. Whether it be 30 or 40 years when people get their heads screwed on straight, where big Pharma is going to get sued just like big tobacco did. But, personally, I don't take no medications. I don't go to the doctor. I mean, I'm not going to some quack who sat there and was saying, that say, oh, you need to wear a mask and get a shot and social distance and shit. I never did none of that. Never wore a mask once. Never social distance. Went to work every day. Never got sick. How am I still alive? You ever try mushrooms? No, sir. I'm sorry. Things, whatever you got to do to escape, I'm going to go to the mountains. And that's, living in this, we're not Kansas no more type of atmosphere. Everything has changed. You can't tell these kids reality. They just buck you up and shut you up. Okay? This ain't the same world that I grew up in anymore. Yeah, that's a scar. That's what it is. Okay. I'm a working man. And sometimes, you cut yourself up a little bit. All right. Yeah, it's from a branch. I do trees and stuff. You can see there's trees around here. It's pretty easy to scratch yourself. Okay. Boy, you should see my forearms when I'm fencing. They really get scratched up. But yeah, I'm a working man, sir, and have the scars to show it. Anyway, I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. But yeah, Charlie Kirk, just imagine if this kid would have got some help when he needed help. But no, we got to accept this and push this stuff. And now Charlie Kirk's a victim to it. And that's why I'm not really, I don't, step everything that's going on hour by hour, minute by minute. It all comes down to we need to treat mental illness and not encourage it. Okay? There's companies that need to be reined in that are messing with kids' heads and young adults' minds, okay? To where they're not even allowed to develop. They don't even know a sense of reality anymore. They live in fantasy. It's terrible. It's terrible. Anyway, sure do appreciate everybody being here. Like I say, if you could like, hit the thumbs up and subscribe and the bell notification, help the channel grow. All of it helps. Like I say, I'll probably start going live every other night around this same time. Try to cut down on my content a little bit because I haven't had a live stream like this in a month. I tell you what, when YouTube wants to sit there and silence you or make you only drip, drip, drip out of the faucet, they can do that rather easy. So I'm figuring if I I don't need to be putting that much content on. Like I say, my channel doesn't grow, it goes backwards. My channel's growing this live stream. I appreciate it. Okay. But now back to the subject. Okay. Now, like I say, we have kids in their 20s that are on all these mind-altering drugs. One of my personal experience is when my daughter came and lived with me, and she was on antidepressants, I think it was antipsychotics, and seizure medication. And I made her throw the antidepressants and antipsychotics away the day she moved in with me. I said, you're no longer allowed to take these. But I tell you what, that doctor had her so convinced that she needed that seizure medication, where it took 3 months for me to finally sit there and say, you don't need this either. And she and she was always fine. But they told her she needed to take that shit the rest of her life. Well, she's been living now 8 years without it. And she's just fine. I mean, she snapped out of it. She was, let's just say she was a lot different back then. Okay. It's like she was living in a shell. And every little thing that she looked out the windows of that shell scared her. Yeah. So that ended that. And she's just fine. But, she was convinced that she was going to have a seizure and die. She actually her moods got better, and the being scared of everything went away after she stopped taking the antidepressants and antipsychotics. I tell you what, they got these kids on stuff that's worse than the drugs you buy on the corner, except for maybe fentanyl. It seems like a lot of meds for kids. Too many. All these vaxes. When I was a kid, I was still in the 8th, during the time when every kid got a polio and a measles shot. No, polio and smallpox. Yeah, I got the smallpox scar. Okay? But that was it. And that worked. You know why it worked? Because kids these days don't have to get it. But they replaced it with 5,000 other vaccines they need. You know, when I was growing up, if a kid got chickenpox, all the neighbor kids showed up. Let's get through with it right away. Yeah. Even with my kids, that's the way it was. And now I guess they got a shot to prevent that. I don't ever remember anybody dying of the chickenpox. Now you wonder why we have so many crazy. Yeah, because the big pharma's making them that way, and the government's pushing it, and the doctors are making a lot of fucking money off of it, and our kids are just another victim in another way. Sad situation, folks. Sad situation. And they're just, you know, and if you try to speak out or try to tell the truth or try to interrupt their reality, oh my God, you just get shut down. They only let you talk. I mean, remembering things that didn't happen, thinking things that couldn't happen, thinking things that can't be true. I mean, there's a reality and then there's fantasy land. You know, life isn't pretend. Life isn't something you dreamed up or fantasized about. Crazy time, people, crazy time. And they're just, I mean, when somebody already has a problem with reality, you throw them on a pill that alters their mind? How much research is actually put into this stuff? I mean, like all these kids now that, well, they're probably in their 30s, late 20s and 30s, that they had them on Ritalin and stuff that can't even function anymore because they took Ritalin. But Big Pharma, they're not responsible for payments to them. No. I mean, I know kids that were kids that are in their late 20s and 30s that just can't function properly because they took Ritalin. Well, obviously that wasn't tested enough. I don't even know. They probably have stuff that's far more dangerous. You know, we had it before. It was called being a kid when I was growing up. And you know how they solved it? With spankings and discipline and teaching kids boundaries. Okay, that's how it was handled. I mean, look how many children's psychiatrists we have now. And we still have more problems and more problems. And the first thing they do, let's put them on a pill. Crazy time, people. Crazy time. You know, like getting all these, you know, now Trump's getting about how vaccines are bad, right? First, he's praising Fast and Furious. Now vaccines are bad. Which I completely agree with. You know, but, you know, and then he talks about Bill Gates and stuff at the White House with the all-in-one shot, right? All-in-one. This ain't good, people. This ain't good. And I just don't understand why people don't wake up. Yeah, we need to take some action against our government because our government is part of this problem. Especially when, you know, we have people in Congress hammering anybody who comes out with the truth or common sense. Anyway, this is the world we live in, people. I guess you guys must be arguing in the chat. I appreciate everybody being here. Good conversation. But we need to start having some civil conversations. All right? And people need to start policing their own and stuff. Anyway, you know, I got, how do you know it was a transgender, all this stuff. You know, wait, we're going to find out only a tenth of what the real evidence is, okay? And maybe it'll come out in trial, I don't know. But all these conspiracy theories about other gunmen, and I even heard there was one that they had a drone flying over at the time and stuff. Okay, I know no drone did that. They did do no drone hit. It wasn't Israel Mossad. This was just homegrown terrorism. Okay, but like I say, because of that too, we're going to get a lot less details, especially if it affects somebody that is a little sensitive. But anyway, protect your children. You get your kids in college, make sure you're talking to them every single day. And if you're starting to see warning signs, make sure you get them corrected immediately. And they're still getting that. Like I say, this is the problem. The only thing those people hear is that side, because our side is quiet it down, shut up. We're not allowed to talk. It's hate speech. It's, whatever you want to call it, to where you got to worry about a knock on your door from the FBI if you get too crazy, right? And then Charlie Kirk gets killed because of wanting to preach the First Amendment. And, all the left can do is say, well, he got shot because he said something that upset this person. This is what happens when children aren't allowed to sit there and grow up the way children are supposed to. Challenged, responsibilities on them, hands getting blisters, chores, getting told we don't, a child doesn't hang around the adult. When I was growing up, kids didn't hang around the adults. Kids were outside playing. Nowadays, kids are all hanging around the adults. Okay? All this stuff. Kids need just whatever. And we need to get Big Pharma under control. I mean, they're getting a pill for everything. A pill for everything. And it's just beyond crazy. How many illnesses does the human race have? Anybody wants to say the human's a perfect machine, perfect being? Really? Is that why we have so many pills and everything for everybody? Because the human being's so perfect? I don't think so. Anyway. But I need to get out of here. I got stuff to do. I'm going to live stream. Let's see, today's Monday, Wednesday. I may come out with a video tomorrow, but since I got to go out and do work, I got work I set up for the next week or 10 days. So, I'll be busy doing that, but I'll try to get videos done. It's hard to get shorts done. I do a tree business type thing. So, I got to pay attention. I'm also the boss, and the boss don't screw off. So anyway, I appreciate everybody being here. And like I say, the biggest problem in this country is mental illness. Okay. And the government pushing it. It's sad, but I just can't believe it. I just can't believe all the depravity that they're filling kids full of, the lies they're filling kids full of, turning kids against their parents. Sad situation. But anyway, appreciate everybody being here, and we'll see what the subject is Wednesday. But like I say, I'm not going to get into all the news about Charlie Kirk, because the main detail is we need to solve mental illness. Okay. And then maybe people will understand that $38 trillion in debt isn't the best thing a country should go, the path a country should go down, and all these wars, and we can start correcting our problems that way. Anyway, but it's crazy time. It's crazy time. When the left sits there and tries to say this guy was a right winger because his family was a right winger. Oh, really? then how come, they say this, right? And then wasn't it you're not allowed to go to Thanksgiving dinner with conservatives, not allowed to come to the family because they're the only conservative in the family, so they're not allowed to come to Thanksgiving dinner. So you tell me you can't have a conservative in a liberal family, but you can't have a liberal in a conservative family? Anyway, this is the world we live in. And this is the mental illness they want to push on us. Don't matter what you see or you know for sure. It don't matter. It's what somebody thinks the reality is. And that's the reality you got to live with. Bullshit. I'm tired of it. Anyway. But like I say, I'm tired of it. And you guys need to get self-sufficient from the system before they make it impossible to do it. So anyway, everybody have a great evening, and I will see you all Wednesday night about the same time. This is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out of here.